Hello fantasy managers, and welcome back to another video from myself, Will, and fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. We're continuing our brand new series interviewing some of Hub contributors. We've got podcaster Andy Green on today. Welcome, Andy.
Hi, Will. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
It's great to have you on. Just looking at your previous season history there, some incredible finishes to your name, including that podium finish in 18-19 season. I can only dream of getting that high. Are you still living off the
No, not at all. I wish people would stop talking about it, actually. It's not last season, so you're only as good as your last season as far as I'm concerned.
Fair enough. Very honest of you. I think I would keep talking about that one for a long time if it was me. But great to have you on. And for those watching, if you're enjoying this series, then please like and subscribe to the channel, because we've been having a lot more content in the run up to the new season. Okay, moving on to your team then, and you've got McCarthy between the sticks. Talk to me about that. And is he certainly your team, or are you thinking of potentially moving that out?
Well, for me, you really need to keep the goalkeepers at a budget level. So as you can see, I've gone for the 8.5 million spend on keepers, simply because there's so many options further up the field, both not just in midfield and strikers, but also in the defence. So I'm still a kind of 50-50 call on McCarthy versus Ryan. I do prefer Southampton's fixtures over Brighton, at least initially. I'm certainly not set on McCarthy or Ryan. I did think that Southampton looked quite good defensively towards the end of last season. But as we know, it's not just all about clean sheets, it's also about save points in this spot.
Fair enough. No, I can't argue with that pick. Certainly a keeper that I'm very much strongly considering for my own team. Moving on to your defence, Trent Alexander-Arnold. We won't touch on him because I think he's in every draft that I've seen, certainly on Twitter. Obviously, a prime pick, be massively underpriced by FPL. Moving on to your other three picks, though, Vinagre, Johnson and Robertson. Talk me through those.
Well, the 4 million defensive spots are, again, enablers for the rest of my team. I did have Nathan Ferguson in there, but he's rumoured. Well, he's rumoured. I think he is injured. So therefore, I've moved on to Mitchell and Johnson. I do like Johnson's attacking output. And they obviously have some very tough fixtures coming up, but hopefully I shouldn't be needing him, barring some injuries or game postponements or something. But yeah, I do want to keep those at least 4 million defenders in there to enable options further upfield. Vinagre is obviously an attacking left back. Let's hope that Wolves do not sign another left back. I know that obviously they've lost Doherty, so they'll be focusing on the right back position. But the spot will be his to lose unless that happens. And Wolves actually last season had one of the best defences, helped by Bowley. So I'm hopeful of further clean sheets and just. With the way that Wolves play, you kind of see that there'll be some attacking output from the wing backs as well. So, whether it's Maitland-Niles in that spot or Vinagre or someone, I do want to have an attacking Wolves defensive option in there.
Yeah, no, I can't argue with that. And the last pick there, Robertson, probably not, not a lot of people going for the Liverpool double up. I'm certainly considering it. Talk me through why you have gone for the Liverpool double up.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, I think the reasons are twofold, really. I think big at the back, a lot of people started big at the back last season and it didn't work for them due to the Alisson injury. And also, if you remember, just towards the end of the restart, Liverpool performed very badly defensively. So that's fresh in people's minds, as well as, actually, there's a third option in the sense that people want to have, there's some good 4.5 million options and they want to have that extra 2.5 million to spend further up the field. So, if we look at Robertson individually, he started taking more set pieces towards the end of last season. But out with that, he only played 3,100 minutes out of the total 3,420 minutes last season. But yet he ended up the 11th highest scorer overall. So the Robertson pick really is not just for 1 or 2 weeks. It's really got to be for the whole season. I do expect Liverpool to be pretty solid again, as long as, the unit stays as is. And I think he can possibly add to his assist count if he continues to take set pieces. So, I guess I'm still up in the air about it, but for the moment, I think the 11th best score at 7 million should be in my team.
Yeah, and I think he's a really good pick. The only other one I would consider is Van Dijk. A little bit cheaper if you need to shave off 0.5. But I think that if you look at total points scored for players under 8 million last season, I think Robertson came second and Trent came first. So really good value, especially when you're comparing them to strikers and midfielders. So I can totally understand that pick. Moving on to your midfield, then. You got the two big guns in there, Aubameyang and Salah. They pretty much locked in your team?
Yeah, well, certainly it's been aided by the fact that City and United don't play week one. Aubameyang, let's just start there. Other than the fact that he's moved to the midfield slots, which obviously increases his points per goal and his clean sheet points, he actually, against the weaker teams last season, so Bournemouth, Watford, Norwich, he actually scored 9 goals. 5 of them away and 4 at home. So, with Fulham up first, he's actually got the captaincy armband on for me. Clearly, we get a nice sneak peek at them in the Charity Shield, but I think at that price point as well, it enables you to move down to De Bruyne or Bruno or Sterling. So it's nice. It's nice to have him in there. Be one of the top scorers again this season, both in FPL and real life, if you like. I think Arsenal have signed some decent players, and so he's definitely in my team to start the season.
Yeah, and I won't go into Salah. He's obviously a great pick. Even if Adam Hopcroft disagrees, go check out video from Adam Hopcroft. I'll leave a link in the description. Another brilliant manager. Interviewed him yesterday. Moving on to your other 2 midfield picks in Souček and Ziyech. I really like both of these picks. I'm not completely convinced that they're the right picks for the start of the season. But talk me through your thinking behind them, and if are they sort of locked into your team, or are you sort of on the fence with those guys?
Well, let's start with Souček. I think the stats look pretty decent for him in terms of goals scored over the last few seasons. He's by no means first name on the team sheet. In fact, West Ham have some pretty poor fixtures, but I feel that if you need Salah and Aubameyang and some bigger strikers up there, ideally I'd like to find an extra 500,000, and perhaps Robertson moving down to 4.5 might move that. But as I think as a 5 million option, he's definitely the best out there. He's got some goal threat, but he's certainly not going to be up near the top of my FPL point score. So he's very much there as an enabler at the moment.
Do you think you'll be starting him from? Because West Ham have pretty poor fixtures from game weeks 2 onwards. Do you think you'll be starting him then, or you look to transfer him out, or you look to bench him?
I think the way I'm looking, again, this all hinges on the Robertson situation. If I go with Robertson the whole season, or for the large part of the season, I think I'm going to have to be starting him for the first few games. But the thing with Souček is he's not the sort of player that's going to score, from open play when they're dominating the game. He's much more of I think he's like 6'4", much more of a set piece threat. So from that perspective, he's got Arsenal, who can be suspect defensively. Wolves, I'm not so great on in game week 3, but Leicester, Spurs, he can score from set pieces against those teams quite easily. So, again, if I do raise some funds elsewhere, he will definitely be upgraded. But certainly, I think he's a very good option at 5 million to be able to afford some of the bigger guns.
Yeah, some valid points there. Talk to me about Ziyech then.
So Ziyech, let's just focus on the teams before we move on to the players. Last season, Chelsea, the whole season, I know there's a lot of disruption. Last season, Chelsea had the 3rd highest XG of all teams. So that's even better than Man United, despite Man United's performance in towards the end. They've only increased their attacking output. I mean, I don't know by what factor, but, they've signed the likes of Werner, Havertz. We'll see what price Havertz comes in at. But, Pulisic will be back from injury at some point in the first few game weeks, if not game week 1. I just feel that Chelsea are a team that you really need some attacking output from. I'm not so keen on them defensively, but attacking-wise, I firmly believe with the signings they've made, they're going to finish in the top four. And I think they're going to be one of the highest goal scoring teams, alongside City and Manchester United next season. So, I've always been looking out for their assets. I do like Havertz as well. I think he'll probably come in at 8 or 8.5. If we talk about the player now, yes, he wasn't playing in the highest caliber league, but he still managed 12 assists. And if you look at the Champions League, he played 6 games, scored 2 goals, 4 assists. So, with a player like Werner up there, I think he can perform. I mean, in that spot, I think if I look at my overall team, that Ziyech, I've actually got 2.5 million in the bank, which we'll go on to because it's for an upgrade. But again, if I look at Robertson and Ziyech, those 2 players would be, the 2 that I might kind of flip around and go for a 4.5, and then I would have the funds to take Ziyech up to a 10.5, or maybe even just leave the money in the bank, and wait for Bruno to come into that spot. So, although I do love Chelsea's attacking assets, I typically do not go for unknown players or unproven Premier League players, and I now have 2 in my team.
Fair enough. I can't argue too much with that. I think for me, I haven't sort of set on it, but I think he's a bit of a wait and see. But I can totally understand, wanting to jump on him straight away, and he could start out the blocks firing. Before we get on to your Strikeforce, a cheeky plug for Fantasy Football Hub membership. All the membership details you can see on screen. I'll leave a link in the description below and in the information card above. Andy, you use Hub membership. What's your favorite feature?
Well, I love the OPTA Stats tool. I mean, I've got 4 tabs open right now on it, just talking to you about it. It's the first thing I go into when I sign in. Even ahead of many of the articles, I just love looking at all the stats.
Correct answer. Are you enjoying our new app as well?
Yeah, it's very, very quick. I think it's got everything on there as well. So when you don't have great signal, you don't have to wait for web pages to load. So it's great.
Fantastic. Good stuff. As I said, link in the description and the information card above if you're interested in getting 25% off Hub membership. Having a look at your Strikeforce then, Antonio and Werner, talk me through your reasoning behind that. Lots of people going for Werner. Antonio, I think, is an interesting pick, someone that I've looked at, someone I was interested before I saw the fixtures. Is that, are you looking to upgrade him potentially?
Yeah, so this is where kind of the strategy really kicks in now. The 2.5 million I have in the bank with this team Antonio will be going to Martial game week 2. So that will, I don't think, if you look at Martial's tally, 6 away goals, 11 home goals. He's going to have Bruno there for a full season. The team looked absolutely insane with Greenwood in there towards the end of last season. So, Martial is definitely one of the top of my list of players to bring in. The big question mark is, with the 2.5 million, I could go Ziyech to Bruno, or I could go Antonio to Martial. So, I know there's some talk of people taking hits. I'm quite anti. We should probably just go into this at this point with regards to. I'm quite anti using the early wild card for a few reasons, really. Now, I think if I look at the last 3 or 4 seasons, I've played the wild card in the first few weeks. This season, twofold, really. One, we've seen a lot of game postponements, and even we're getting reports of many players contracting COVID. We've seen many game postponements in Scotland. Now that could happen in the Premier League, if not the whole season. So I think you really need your wild card just in case that tends to happen, because I think the government's going to want to keep it regionally rather than close the whole league down, so that you may end up with a situation where Manchester and Liverpool have postponed games, and you really want to use your wild card to get out of that mess. So that's the first reason. And the second reason is that, given we've got this blank game week that's coming up, I guess we're going to have a double game week, and you really want that wild card to prepare for that. So, yeah, I've got some tough decisions here. I think at some point Antonio will be Martial, and at some point Ziyech will be Bruno. It's just a case of which order do I do them in, and how quickly do they rise in price? Do I get priced out? And this is where you end up. I talked in the summer video about wanting to have 500,000 in the bank, simply because you can afford to absorb essentially 5 price rises or falls before you find yourself locked into having to take a hit, because I'm very hit averse. 2 seasons ago, I think I took 1 hit, and last year I think I took 3, which is quite low. But I'm just not. We're talking about here about taking. Some people are lining up taking hits already. We're talking about taking a hit to take out players like Antonio or Ziyech, who, the reason they're in your team is because they've got a high chance of scoring or assisting. So, it just seems crazy against anyone really to be taking a hit to go for, fair enough for a Man United asset, but it seems crazy to me to be taking a hit this early without an injury or.
Moving on quickly then to Werner. Talk to me about him. I know he's a popular pick, isn't he? So is he pretty much a lock in your team, or is he someone that you're giving a bit of thought to?
Yeah, where I'm still a bit on the fence with regards to Ziyech and Robertson. And I've already said I don't normally pick players that are unproven in the Premiership. I really just think the combination of Chelsea's attacking output, as I mentioned earlier, third highest for XG over the season, plus the fact that they're bringing in players to supply him, with the addition of the fact he's playing the Bundesliga last season, 33 appearances, one of which was a sub. He scored 28 goals and assisted 8 times. I mean, it's just an insane record.
Yeah.
So at the moment, he is just locked in my team. He's one of the first names on the team sheet. 9.5. The reason he's 9.5 million is because he's unproven in the Premiership. He really should. I fully expected him to come in at 10.5 million.
No, I completely agree, to be honest. He's a complete lock in my team. I think FPL have massively underpriced him. If you do want to see my video on 9 underpriced players, I'll leave a link in the description. Well, I think we'll end the video there. If you did enjoy it, please like, subscribe, comment, and all that good stuff. Thank you so much for being on, Andy. It's great to have your insight. Where can the watchers find you?
I'm on Twitter at FPL Fantasy Guide.
Nice one. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.